down here by the Harold Washington Library, and DePaul has want to expand their graduate school or downtown campus, really, and they could relocate the Harold Washington Library. There's Robert Morris across the street. Maybe they want to expand and then move it into Museum Park. The Harold Washington Library relocated into Museum Park. And there's UIC, it's law school, Robert Morris, DePaul's right here. And so it would give them room. They could take over and expand their offering downtown Chicago, like DePaul University's right here. They can take over the Harold Washington Library, move the Harold Washington Library into Museum Park. It would make actual sense. And then they can expand the educational arena right here that's on State Street. Now, on State Street, they don't think about it like I said, but they can build this out as an academic experience too. They have Robert Morris, they have UIC Law School, they have DePaul Graduate School, I think it is, right here. And then there's Roosevelt and National Louis that's right up the street. Now, it's not on State Street, I don't think. But, again, they have buildings right here. And they can build this out to be a substantial graduate school experience. So, again, there's 2 lanes here. Let me move over here so the tailgater can, let's see, since I'm doing the videos, there we go. And there's the plate and everything else like they did with me, right? They were tailgating me. This lane was wide open. No reason to be behind me within, a couple feet of the car. That's called harassment. Because there's no reason. There's another lane wide open. You can go right into the first lane and go. So you don't have to be behind me. Now, as they sit here to further harass, right? But, again, they can build this into an educational experience. And there's lots of law besides criminal law. So I want to wipe out the necessity for a lot of criminal attorneys by getting good systems and building the church in other ways and crushing crime through other paths than law enforcement. Quite honestly. Crushing it through educational institutions, raising their standards and suspending and terminating students, punishing them severely for wrongdoings. I want churches to excommunicate. I want businesses to blacklist individuals and to punish them and demote them. They do that in the military. You act out, they strip your rank. So, you can see it in movies, but it's true. They'll take away rank right away when you do something wrong. So demotion is very effective tool to handle people that do things incorrectly. So demote them. Strip them of this and demote them. And so very effectively, they take away stars of generals. So again, I want all these other ways to crush it, to get on board so we don't need so much law enforcement where they're doing the monitoring and everything through these institutions, educational, businesses, and churches. And then throw on top of it associations. There's all kinds of the unions and other associations, like the Elk Lodge Association, or there's the University, the University Club in Chicago, and then there's the Urban League and many others, and they can enforce it as well. So there's a lot of places I want them to put strict discipline in that law enforcement should be the minor component of enforcement. There's many other ways to crush them, and then it teams in with law enforcement, and you got a complete way to destroy somebody from every single angle. So, again, they have this down here, and this State Street, they can really make this into and work with the educational institutions that are up towards Roosevelt on State, and then figure out how to build this out and build this experience. They have, there's law that works with retail. Oh yeah, that's a very growing field. Legal people who work for retail, for Walgreens and many others. They have lots, and from the real estate department, they have lawyers, to the HR department, they have lawyers, to their marketing departments and everything else. So, lots of lawyers work in retail for Walgreens and many others, Target, you name it. So, now we're in the theater district. Here's the Nederlander, and so on. And again, building this out, and there's the Wit Hotel, and there's ESPN and ABC and the Chicago Theater. You can't see it. And then on the other side of that is the Wit Hotel. And this is all on this side of the river. Then you have the House of Blues. They have bands, and you can have theatrical plays at the House of Blues. Not only live music at the House of Blues, but you can have theatrical plays at the House of Blues. It can be part of the theater district. The House of Blues can have theatrical plays. Like one of them could be the Blues Brothers play at the House of Blues. So, again, here's the Chicago Theater. Here is ABC, ESPN. You got Potbellies, but here's where I used to go a lot, to the Wit Hotel, and I used to hang out upstairs at the Wit Hotel. I used to like hanging out here. I liked the Wit Hotel. And then you have another hotel right across the street, the Hyatt, or no, the Residence, the Marriott Residence. And then you have somebody making commentary into whatever. But anyways, so they can tie this all in, and you have Chase Bank right on the corner here of the Residence, and then you got Lakeside Bank, and this is Wacker Drive, and this ties right into the financial district, and it ties into all the river cruises. Do you know on the river cruise they can take you by the backside of the financial district? The Mercantile Exchange and so on is right there, and they can talk about on the river cruise the Mercantile Exchange, when it was built, the CME, and then they can talk about some other parts of the financial district. Truly, in the river cruise, and talk about the history of the financial district, and the CBOT, the Chicago Board of Options Exchange. And then the Chicago Board of Trade, I should say, CBOT. But anyways, they can do this on the river cruise. And it takes you right by the backside of the financial district. And you can sit outside. There's a beautiful patio. My friend, she used to run the restaurant there. I haven't seen her in a long time, but she was the general manager of the restaurant in the CME. And so she worked with me at Baja. And I don't know if she's still there, but again, this is the riverboat cruise. And as the cruise is going along, you're down here, it can explain everything above. So, again, and they can have video screens on the cruise. Truly. And they can stop at places on the riverboat cruise and play little video presentations. Oh yeah, they don't need to keep on going. They can stop on the river and then have a video presentation like of this building here and how it's uniquely built, on this platform, and then it expands out. It's built on a thinner base and then expands out, and I forget they talked about, but they can have a little video presentation. And this leads right down into the financial district. Here's Good Funk. And the river is right behind all these buildings. So it can talk about each of these buildings on Wacker Drive right here along the river, and have a little bit of history about them, have a video presentation about them. Here's the river. You can see the river right here. So that's the bridge going over the river. They can talk about buildings on each side. Here's a beautiful cafe, and the river's right there. So it would have been nice to have an office here and work here. So I could have opened up an office here, and I would have liked to come to work here every day on Wacker Drive. Here's the Chicago Lyric Opera. My friend had an office right upstairs at the Chicago Lyric Opera, and he liked it. Now, this building needs renovation interior-wise. Yeah, the offices and that, they're a little outdated. It needs renovation. But here's a little video presentation related to the opera. So you can see the yeah, God forbid, but you have this, and it can show the different video presentations or clips of the opera, the Lyric Opera. And here's the CME group, and you see the river right there. And again, they can put some statues out front here. Truly, they can put some nice statues out here. Here's the stuff going on with the exchanges, and they can put the futures market up there. The futures market is going on right now. And so they have the futures market in the CME. And the overnight futures, you can trade overnight futures right here at the CME. So the futures market, and then you have all these other buildings, like this building 100 Wacker Drive, looks like it needs a little bit of a facelift, because most of the buildings around it are newer and beautiful, like Deloitte. It is a beautiful building there, and my friend Tina used to go to work here every day, and to get in shape, she walked from the office to our small group. So she didn't take it, and she walked down the street and walked all the way to Simon's for small group. And that was her trying to pick up her conditioning, and it was working. She was getting in better shape. Hopefully she lost all that weight and was in really good shape. So, again, here's all the buildings, and some of these need some update, but here's Charles Schwab. And, it would make sense they have a big presence down here. And then you have the anchor tenant, or Willis Towers, a.k.a. the Sears Towers. But you don't have, and it's great that Starbucks is in there, because wouldn't you want to be here? But Starbucks is not in the John Hancock. And so you want to be in these iconic buildings, and they're here in the Sears Tower, but they should think about opening up in the John Hancock, or, you know what? It's downstairs in the John Hancock. I've been to it once in the John Hancock, and there's a Starbucks in the Aon, but you can't tell it's there from the street. So it would be nice if it was more pronounced they were in these iconic buildings, because that helps Starbucks have more of an iconic brand, and Starbucks can talk about all their Starbucks in these iconic buildings. They can have a drink called the Willis Tower. Yeah, each of these, like the Starbucks in the John Hancock, now the 360, can have a drink called the 360. So they can have one specialty drink that is designed for the building they're in. That one specialty offering. So one beverage or one dessert. Truly, it'd be better if they stayed with a beverage and they called it the Willis Tower. So, again, this is a big part of down here. And so you have the Bank of America. And it goes down here